Okay. Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Redevelopment Commission. Today is Monday, March 11th, and as per tradition, we'll go ahead and start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Taylor, will you lead us, please?
My honor, thank you. Join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so please let the minutes show that all of the commissioners are here this evening.
Did it change?
Despite any circumstances, so appreciate that. Thank you very much. And let's go ahead and first take on that first order of business, which is the approval of the minutes. Do we have any questions or comments about the minutes? And is it only one set of minutes this evening?
I think it is, isn't it? Just one set.
I think so.
I believe it is, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
I believe so too.
February 11th.
February 11th? Yeah, I was just, thanks for that, because I just needed the date. Okay, any questions or comments about the minutes from February 11th? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move the minutes be accepted as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. Next on the agenda is old business. Seeing none, we'll move on to the new business, which will be our first stop on our journey this evening, which will be the Lebanon Community School Corporation Workforce Coordinator presentation and request. And next time we'll have a longer title. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. My name is Kristen Scott, and I serve as the School Community Work Coordinator for Lebanon Community School Corporation. I have been in this role since 2015 and have enjoyed every minute and have excited to share some of the things along the course of those years that we've been able to accomplish, and then kind of tell you about some of the results we've had so far, along with share with some student testimonies with you as well.
Excellent.
So prior to stepping into this role in 2015, I served as an agriculture teacher within the corporation for 9 years. And during that time, I saw the passion for educating students about all paths after high school, not just college, but all of the different career paths that were available and options that they could partake in. So when this role came up, I was very excited to take it on and have really enjoyed that time. When we kicked off in 2015, one of the very first events that first semester of that role was hosting the Elevating Work and Learn conference here at the Lebanon schools in the Herman B. Wells community room. Little at that time did we know, when we had Governor Pence there, that he would soon be Vice President Pence. So that was a very exciting event that we were able to host with the Department of Workforce Development here within our community. In addition, that year, as I got my feet planted underneath me, we continued with the College and Career Fair, where we had over 80 different options for our students to learn about after high school. We had students as young as 8th grade attending that event, and it has been an event that we've held annually since then and continue to have good foot traffic at that to educate our students and our families. In addition, then that March, we held our first career day for our high school students in grades 9 through 12. During that career day, we had 50 breakout sessions for our students to learn about opportunities after high school from career professionals. Came in and talked to students about joining the military or apprenticeship programs, or learning from a speech pathologist about what that path is to get to that career. So that's been a very great event, and we're getting ready to host our 4th annual career day on March 25th. No, 27th, I apologize. March 27th at the high school, and have 67 different breakout sessions. And I finally just had to say, okay, we're out of space, because a lot of people like to come back because they found it to be a very rewarding experience being able to talk to those students. When we returned for the 2016-17 school year, one of the things that was implemented for that 8th grade class was a new course called Preparing for College and Careers. That course had previously been an elective offered through our business department at Lebanon High School, but was not a requirement for students. It was obviously encouraged to help get them set on the path for figuring out what they wanted to do with their life, but it was not a requirement. And through the work with Dr. Taylor and his administrative team, it became a requirement for all of our 8th graders to take that course. So we've had 2 years of that now, and it has been fantastic, and the students are going into high school better prepared, knowing what classes they need to take to get them on the right path. In addition, that year we added the new course called Work-Based Learning, and here in a little bit you'll hear from some students that have been able to participate in that. Work-Based Learning is an internship class that still continues on today. It averages anywhere from 25 to 40 students in that class, and over time we've partnered with at least 50 different organizations throughout our community to host interns for 2 periods every other day. Joe has a paper that he'll pass around that lists those partners, and that list continues to grow. Internship placement sites are determined based on the student's interest. So for example, right now I'm collecting applications for students for the next school year, and then we'll meet to discuss where their interests are and how they can grow. I remember that first year, it being one of those conversations that I was nervous to tell Dr. Taylor about when I had my first intern that said, yeah, I really don't think this is what I want to do. But he reassured me that this was a positive win in the fact that that's what we're here for. That's what we're trying to do. Help allow the kids to explore and empower them to be educated to make their decisions about what they want to do after they're able to experience that. So we've had a lot of those things throughout the time, and I think you'll hear here in just a minute, it's been a course that's really helped to prepare our students. In addition, in 2016-17, through our partnership with the Vincennes University Gene Haas Center, along with the support of the City of Lebanon, the Boone County Economic Development, along with Hendrickson Trailer, we were actually awarded the Education Workforce Partnership Grant. And through that grant, we were allowed to explore and be able to develop a plan to launch our high school precision machining class at the Vincennes University Gene Haas Center, which you'll hear about here in just a minute. So that grant was awarded to us through the Center of Excellence in Leadership and Learning, that is a program called CEL out of the University of Indianapolis. In addition, that year, we earned the Governor's Work Ethics Certification Grant, awarded by the Department of Workforce Development, and that grant you'll hear about here in just a minute has allowed us to grow our work ethics certification program, and we'll be having seniors graduate this year in May with the work ethics certification, and I can explain a little bit more about that in just a minute. 2017-18, we were excited. You might have heard about JobSpark in September. It's usually something that you see on the news where all the 8th graders from Marion County get to crowd the state fairgrounds over a 2-day event and explore different opportunities based on career cluster. I might have visited and tried to find out how we could recreate that event in Boone County, and then quickly learned that we can't replicate it because it's such an awesome event. How do we get involved in that event instead? So I'm excited that we were the first school outside of Marion County to be able to take our 8th graders to that event, and it has been an awesome experience where the kids get to participate in virtual reality simulations and talk to these professionals about their career. So that's been exciting. In 2017-18, we also launched our Pride initiative. Joe has another handout. Pride is one thing that we continue to hear from employers, small or large, is the need for work ethic. And if a student can show that work ethic and show up on time, that they can train them for what they need. So we went to the drawing board and visited other schools and had a great collaboration throughout with other school districts to where we have adopted the same type of initiative that is in a school district in southern Indiana, Greater Clark County, known as Pride, Show Your Pride. You'll see on that handout, we're focusing on persistence, respectfulness, initiative, dependability, and efficiency. All characteristics that we want all students to be aware of and to be able to demonstrate no matter what their path is. So through this initiative, it's not just a 9 through 12 initiative, because we really understand the importance of teaching these skills all the way starting down in kindergarten. You can't turn a light switch on in freshman year and expect a student to understand what persistence means and how they display that as a student. So we've done that, implemented that, and are in full swing this year in our 2nd year with the Pride initiative. At every 9 weeks, every student in grades K through 12 earns a Pride score. One of the handouts that you have has a rubric where teachers use that rubric to evaluate their students on a scale of 1 to 3. 3 showing that they consistently are demonstrating all 5 of those characteristics, and it explains that. So students have that score on their report card, like I mentioned, every 9 weeks. That also then, that pride score goes into our work ethic certification. You'll also see on one of the handouts the work ethic certification for the senior year. I mentioned previously that we earned the Governor's Work Ethic Certification grant that allowed us to explore this opportunity, and the Governor's Work Ethic Certification is something that our seniors can work towards. The goal is, as this expands throughout the state of Indiana and through our school districts and with our employers, that a student that graduates from Lebanon High School meeting these standards that are listed on the paper of their 98% attendance rate, a 2.0 or higher GPA, that they've given 6 hours or more community service back to their community, and then 1 or fewer discipline referrals, that they will earn a work ethic certification, and we will honor and celebrate them at graduation and honors night. Just as much as we would acknowledge and celebrate those students that are in our top 20, because this is such an accomplishment to miss 4 or fewer days, to show up to school on time, and we want to definitely acknowledge and recognize and celebrate this achievement. Not only do we have this work ethic celebration and certification available at senior year, but like I mentioned earlier, we think it's very important that we continue to reward this all throughout. So at the culmination of the grades at each building, at the 5th, at the end of elementary, and then 8th at the end of middle school, we're doing a stair step of this same program to acknowledge those students that earn that. This morning I had the privilege of being at Hattie B. Stokes to recognize 25 of our students in 5th grade at Hattie B. Stokes that earned that certification, or are still on track to earning that certification, and reminding them to do their community service so that they can still be eligible for that. It's interesting when you look at the data that I've included in the presentation about the number of students that were still eligible at the end of the first 9 weeks to the second 9 weeks. Out of a total of 807 students in the 5th, 8th, and 12th grade levels among the 6 buildings, 386 of those students are still eligible. So a lot of our students are doing great things and definitely at school and doing what they're supposed to, and it's just, like I said, just acknowledging and recognizing that. So we're excited and ready to see where the third 9 weeks takes us with attendance, especially after this hard flu season, and see where we're at and be able to celebrate those students this spring. 2018-19, we were very excited to launch the Precision Machining course. The Precision Machining course is at the Vincennes University Gene Haas Center, and it's been something that we've been working towards for quite some time, and excited to see that kick off with the 15 students that are there, with 8 of those being from Lebanon. You'll get to hear from them here in just a minute. But that Precision Machining course is available to juniors and seniors. What happens is they're out there 5 days a week from 12:30 until 3, earning certifications along with dual credit, and then a skill in a high demand area that is definitely needed within manufacturing and transferable to a lot of different areas that you'll hear about in just a minute. In addition, we launched our Health Science CNA program. This Health Science CNA program, through that, we have students that at the conclusion of their first semester of their senior or junior year were able to earn their CNA license. Another area that is very much in demand and needed, an area that we see can help to launch a student's career in a lot of different variety of ways. For instance, it could be a direct career path where a student could go and continue to be a CNA or work their way up through the hospital or facility that they work at, or they could use it to springboard them into working and getting their education as a registered nurse. We've already had some of those students actually get hired by our partner Homewood Healthcare and others that have applied in other locations, so that's exciting to already see that helping. I know that one student that I have is actually will be graduating with her here in May and has her CNA certification, and her plan is actually to go on to cosmetology and to get her license for that, but she's using this to help pay for that. So she knew that this was an area that she could work those hours and make it work to be able to pay for her education. So as you can see, there's a lot of a different widespread of needs that that course helped to meet. In addition, just recently we signed an articulation agreement with the Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio Regional Association of Carpenters Joint Apprenticeship. Long word, I abbreviated it because it didn't all fit. With that, this helps our building trades program. You might know that our building trades program is available to juniors and seniors at Lebanon High School, and those students are actually building a house out in Auburn Meadows that will then be on the market here this spring. What this articulation agreement does is those students that go through that course as a junior or senior, and they have a recommendation from the teacher along with a few other qualifying factors, actually get to go right into year one of the apprenticeship instead of do the pre-apprenticeship 6-month program that they would have to do as a regular applicant. So this is giving our students a leg up into that based on the experiences that they have, along with our partnerships that we've developed through the school corporation and being able to work with that apprenticeship area. Next, I'll show some course enrollment data. At our high school, we have quite a few opportunities that have grown, I would think you could say, over time that allows our students to be outside of the building, outside of the four walls, to gain that experience through their coursework. The construction technology program, which I mentioned is building trades, has been around since prior to 2013-14. Health Science Nursing is a 3-year program that we have at our high school that culminates in an internship experience based on where you factor in as far as grades go and you're an interview, and that's basically more of a competitive process for that, so that's limited to 15 students. We have the work-based learning program that we talked about, Health Science CNA, and precision machining. You can see over time, we've been able to increase our amount of students that are benefiting from these types of experiences. And I'm sure that the 2 students that I have with me tonight, along with the others, can tell you that they're learning so much more outside of those 4 walls than just the trade or the skill or the area that they're in. They're developing mentorships with the individuals and the adults that they work with. And I've heard several stories of our interns coming back and confiding in those adults and asking those adults for professional advice. They're also understanding how different school is from the real world, and that's always an exciting thing to hear them say when we talk throughout the year. So those numbers have grown, and we continue to hope to be able to provide those types of experiences for our students. With that, I'd like to invite our guests to the podium. I have 3 individuals with me tonight. 4, with Mr. Flick joining us as well. Carter Rich is a current senior at Lebanon High School, and Carter is enrolled in our precision machining program, so he spends part of his day at the Gene Haas Center. I've also brought with me Mr. All, who is the new instructor out there at the Vinson Center. Dan Flick, like I mentioned, is the site director. And then I've also, Jarek Herron is a former work-based learning student that just graduated last year and kind of wants to share a little bit about his experiences and how this course has helped benefit him. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
Hello, I'm Carter Ridge. I'm going to pass around a project that I just finished a couple weeks ago. We have a second one I can start at both ends also.
Okay.
It is kind of heavy, so be careful. Don't break anything. Yeah. So what you're looking at is I can use that to indicate a piece of my work in to make sure it's flat, make sure it's square, make sure it's this, make sure it's that. I can also put a scribe on it. I can scribe some lines on some material. That'll come in handy when I work with my my college class here in the future. I plan on going down to Vinson's and finishing out my program. I think it'll end up only being 1.5 years down there versus 2 years. So I think it's a really good opportunity for me to go down there. And this up here too, it really helped me a lot. I've grown into a pretty nice young man, I feel like. It's showed me a lot of things that I can improve on and I can work with and everything. So,
Thank you very much for bringing the sample part out.
Could you tell us what that started out as before you turned it into that sample?
just some pieces of metal.
Just blocks of metal.
Yes, sir.
And so you calculated the measurements,
Yeah, we have a blueprint. We look at the blueprint and we go off the blueprint and we mill, we lathe, we grind everything, get these things down the spec, and they turned out pretty good. So,
So you sure you didn't buy that somewhere?
promise.
Thank you.
Working on it.
There you go. Thank you.
He's being a little modest when he says like he milled those to the sizes and everything. Some of the tolerances on those parts are about the size of your hair. So like if that block has to be 1 inch big, it's 1 inch within the thickness of your hair, and like it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around like getting something that accurate. But it's one of the just fundamental skills that like he learned from this class that he can take on to other industry, like any shop that he wants to go to. Oh, my name's David All, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I'm employed by Vincennes University to teach this high school class down here, and they like for me to like recommend the students to go down to the Vincennes campus, but like I know that's not always the case. Some people like school isn't for them. That's part of the reason why they're in this class. Like they might struggle in their normal everyday high school, like to get C average student, but then comes in, starts working with his hands in a program like this. It's something that he can actually like understand and thrive in a class like this. And going down to college might not be for him, but just the skills that he learns in a class like this or any other type of skilled trade program, he can, or she, they can take those and go directly into the workforce and like get very good paying jobs for those. We passed around a flyer for an open house. I'd love it if you guys come check it out, kind of see what the students are doing there, get a better feel, like understanding of what we do there. Anything else? I can't.
So I'll go ahead and ask a question. I'll give you an opportunity to give a 15-second commercial, of course. Is that you had said that Vincennes likes for you to recommend people to go down there, but there's also an opportunity to stay local and complete your coursework here and be ready for the workforce. Is that correct?
So the students that, like Carter, for example, like he's enrolled in like 13 credit hours worth of classes that are down there at the campus. And
As a high school student,
Like,
he's
yeah.
taking 13 credits per term.
And like if he chooses, he can go down there, and that's 13 credit hours. He doesn't have to pay for down there, doesn't have to sit through classes of. So like, but if he chose to just stay local, didn't want to leave his hometown and like continue working here, he'd be very easily could get a job in any company around here.
That's fantastic.
My question to the Vincennes group would be, have you all reached out to the manufacturers here to see what need they have for new students? I think this is I'm all for this. I think it was a great idea. I want to see more students in there doing that, because I know there's a lot of students that college is not the best thing and not really where they want to go, and finding somewhere to make a career to go out and start something, because I hear this every day on the radio. I'm a radio talk show geek, so all I hear is about how we need more people in the manufacturing side. People don't always have to go to college, because we need people out here working, and so that's why I was wondering if they're reaching out to you guys to say, I need these guys. I know there's people that are being laid off from other businesses looking for another career and probably coming out and getting retrained to do something. But as a city, and we help fund this facility, I want to make sure there's high school students in there that want to be in there, that are wanting to try to get trained, and they could walk in, just like you said, walk into any one of our manufacturing facilities and get a job if he wanted to stay here. If they were helping them to get trained to do the job that they want them to do. And then also, as these students are there, are they getting opportunities to go to these local manufacturing places just to work an hour or two a day to learn what they're doing?
Hartford. We went to.
They can't hear you. You need to speak up here to the mic up here.
We went to Fleece and Freedom Engine Works. We went to Global Plastics. We went to John Force Racing. We just took a bunch of tours that Dan set up for us, and those were great experiences to see what the real work life is out there. We talked to some people while we were there, and they explained what they do on a daily basis and how they do this and how they do that, and it was just a really good experience to go out there and see what my future could look like. So
yeah, I think, like I say, I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea. I would love for us to push as many kids that direction as possible to try to learn the trade, because there's people that need to learn these trades and get out there and start working, because there's jobs everywhere. There's short people, and Dan Flick wanted to say something, I think, right?
Yeah, actually, just, you know, having Kristen was she was instrumental in getting this whole thing started here. And it's just not that. She helped out with the tours that we took, some of the industries. We had a couple set here in town, but I think we had an ice storm or something like that. We were going to one of the local ones, it's a coating slate,
IBC coating.
IBC.
I was thinking KB. So anyway, yeah, so we're supposed to go there, but we do interface with a lot of the companies that are around here. You were talking about having some of the students that are going through this course, if they don't want to go down to VU to actually finish the 2-year degree program, we do have at least one opportunity to do a short-term training here right after high school. We have one from actually Western Boone right now who's going to be who's already signed up for a program at the end of May. We also are supposedly, we're working on another industrial maintenance program which coincides with some of the training down in Vincennes to do that. So that's going to be available to some of the students here locally right after high school, so they can take another track in industrial maintenance training, which is huge. It's a big deal. So that's there. If you have any questions about any of the other training that we can offer locally, and then work with the community as far as that goes, that's something that's ongoing. And we actually have several students that have gone through some of the adult training that actually work here in town at Sharkco and at IBC and some other places that around here. We work as a facility with the local community, like Ken Foods, who just shown up here in the industrial park, also Hendrickson Trailer. So you know, it's a community focused. You know, we're trying to do as much as we can for this community, because they've done so much for Vincennes and for actually not just manufacturing here in the city, but throughout the county and Marion County and so all around. And I do have to say that I started originally from the ground up at this building here. I was with Ivy Tech previously for 16 years, and I came over to Vincennes because of the quality of the training and some other things. But working with Kristen, I get tired because she's very high, high level. She actually helped out with the open house that you're looking at here, not only with Boone County, but reaching out to some of the other career centers around. So there's quite a bit of stuff that she does that really doesn't, it really doesn't pertain to her position, but it helps out overall with the community. So I think that position that you have, that she is fulfilling, she's doing a really good job with it, and she's doing a lot more than what meets the eye. So there are a lot of things I can tell you about that she's done, at least from my perspective, that have really benefited not only the students, down to the grade school, but some of the adult learners and things like that here. So any questions or anything like that?
Yeah, thanks.
One thing I'd like to add on to that.
Please step up to the mic so they can hear you at home. Hear you at home if I could speak. Sorry.
One thing that I'd like to add on to that is I started teaching this position in January, and Miss Scott has been a huge help, helping me contact local schools, figuring out just contact lists and just little things like that. Because I started fresh, didn't really have any contacts, didn't know who even was the Lebanon High School principal, and she helped me out getting all of that arranged, and the open house. She's been key in getting that ball rolling, and she's been a huge help for this whole thing.
Excellent, excellent, thank you.
And last but not least, before I open it up to general questions, I'd like to invite Jarek Herron to the podium as well. Like I mentioned earlier, Jarek graduated this past May, and he was an intern for the year at Boone REMC. And I'll let him share a little bit about how he ended up at Boone REMC as an intern and where he is now.
Howdy. Hi. My name is Jarek. I graduated last year. I was an intern at the Boone RMC, as she said, and I worked with the head engineer, Chuck Levitt, to sort of oversee not only just the line work side, which is what I got into personally myself, but also I got to see everything else that goes in the line work. It's very complicated, very, very hardcore stuff. But throughout that year, I made connections with everyone in the RMC, you know, all the big names I need to get hired, you know, and I still have some of their phone numbers, and I can still text them and do all that great stuff. And because of those connections at the RMC, I was able to get a connection with the guy who hired me at Electric Company, the contractor for the RMC. Through them, I was able to get a job and all that stuff. And what helped me get that job is this internship, because beforehand, before I was even hired, they were telling me about how a CDL is very important. So I was able to work on getting my CDL before I was even hired so I can work the trucks, and that was very good for myself. I got an OSHA certification, which was very good to me now. Ms. Scott had a program for us to go through, and I still have the card in my wallet. It's very good to show all the high seats up in the company that I'm certified, because they're already making the other guys having to maybe do it. So that was a great step. It saved me some paperwork, so thanks for that. And I'd say something, what you were saying, Dick, you hear all the time that trade jobs are needed and all that stuff, but I think a lot of schools now are not doing the best that they could, and I think they're failing in a lot of those situations. So I took this opportunity to get into that. And maybe line work wasn't for me and all that stuff, but I was able to see that it was for me, and I love my job. I go to work every day and enjoy it. And I have to thank Ms. Scott and the school and the internship for that, and the RMC. The RMC was very helpful and all that stuff too. So it's just a very good program. It's not only for trade jobs. You can go and do whatever, but I used it for that. And I know a hard part for us was like liability issues. You know, I was under 18 at the time. And it is a very dangerous job, but everyone worked real hard and made it able to where I could, you know, do it and still watch while also being safe and all that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the internship really covers everything. They make sure you're safe, they make sure you're learning, they're making sure you're getting jobs, they're making sure you're getting certified, prepared, and ready. And I think that's better than school, in my opinion. You know, I feel like my senior year was the only part of my schooling that was worth anything, really, if I'm honest. So it was the best part for me, and I thought it was awesome. So.
That's a great story. Yeah. That really is. So let me ask this question: when you're getting feedback and reviews and whatnot from your employers, are they impressed at how you walked in the door with all these skills, certifications?
Yeah, like a big thing in my industry is the CDL. So to drive the trucks, you know, so they want you to have a Class A CDL. So before I graduated, I was able to go into the BMV and know what classes, like what courses I needed to take in order to get to my CDL. I completed 2 out of the 3 courses at the time, but just through the internship, the apprenticeship, I was able to show initiative to my company, and maybe I'll be able to use that and then impress more people higher up in the company.
That's great. Thanks for joining us tonight, to all of you, really. Thank you. Mm-hmm. These stories are great to hear, and it's you're doing a great job. So this is really good. Thanks for joining us tonight, really. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No. I think you've sold me. I don't know about everybody else, but these are great stories, really, and this is very well prepared. So thank you for doing that for us as well.
Thank you for having me.
So now we have to decide how we're going to move forward.
I did want to ask about the governor's grant. How was that used, and to what amount, and are you eligible for recurring years?
We are not eligible for reoccurring years of that grant. We are still participating on the state level with that and continue to bring input. For example, we were able to sign on partners throughout our community that would recognize that work ethic certification. So for example, if a student were to graduate in Evansville and move to Lebanon, Indiana, they could see what employers would recognize that and how they would recognize it, whether it be a guaranteed interview or a part of the applicant pool or incentives as far as pay goes. There will be a map that's released later this spring that has dots all over it that shows what schools are partners and what employers are partners as well. So that's a great way to advertise what businesses are looking for here in our community, and we'll recognize and honor that certification. So that's one way. So we're still involved with it. We do not get reoccurring funds. Through that grant, we have been able to purchase cords that our students will wear at graduation. So at the Lebanon graduation, high school graduation, you'll see military cords, and you'll see those for Honor Society. I believe that's it, correct?
Academic, top 20.
Top 20. In addition, we will have our students with the work ethic certification cords that will be noted in the program. So that's exciting. In addition, I think one thing that is key in all of this is educating our teachers as well. Our teachers, a lot of time, like myself, I went straight from college back to a classroom as a teacher. Through my experience as an agriculture teacher, when they told me I had to teach welding the next year, I of course got outside of the classroom to learn that skill. So I was able to develop those community partnerships and learn who I could learn from. But this grant actually provided the opportunity to do educator externships, to get our teachers outside of the classroom. We had a teacher that was at Hendrickson for a week to see what that looked like. We had somebody with the Lebanon Fire Department, a science teacher, that was able to take that back to her safety and her chemical units. So we provided that experience as well. In addition, we have lots of signage, hopefully, that you'll see throughout our buildings and continue to see throughout the community, showing your Tiger Pride, that sign that paper that was passed around. So there are things like that that were used for the grant.
Okay, so regarding the partnerships of the local companies, what does that look like? Is there a sponsorship level, or is there a buy-in, or is it a booth fee when you have your career fair? I mean,
no.
Is there any
So everything
revenue
has
generated
been
from
free. I try to continue to meet with local businesses. I know the Boone County Chamber has been a great partner, along with the EDC, along with Joe, in providing introductions to new places that come in or people that are new in roles, to allow me to meet with them to explain what we do as a school corporation and how you can get involved, with the work ethic certification being one way. It seems though now, as the student programs continue to grow, it's a lot more difficult to do those intro meetings, but still try to get those in as well, to see what our business needs. You know, you mentioned wanting to know if our companies, local companies, were interested in hiring our students. I was on a visit last week with an intern, and they're wanting to hire somebody directly out of high school that's been through that program or our project Lead the Way. So through those experiences, I'm able to help continue to build those partnerships. So no level, there's just a mass email that goes out, and I help to advertise it in the fall for the College and Career Fair, and then in the spring for the Career Day. And then we bring in, I know we partner with like Job or Junior Achievement to offer some opportunities to our middle school kids besides junior, the Job Spark, but other than that, that's it. So just contact me and we'll get involved with those processes.
Fantastic. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay.
Thank you.
Not with Christine.
Okay. So,
Mr. President, I'd like to say I probably should have given the email traffic, I probably owe an apology to the commission. It was my understanding about the funding, but you can also see why, as superintendent of schools, I'm extremely passionate about this. We go back to 3 or 4 years ago. We sat down with the determination, giving what we knew was going to be the future workforce development, not only in Lebanon, Boone County, but in Indiana, to kind of redefine success. I think all of us would fall under the banner of success is considered, do you go to college? And so as a result, high school, school corporations, how many kids are you putting in college? And the truth be told, that's not success. Success is how are we preparing young men and women to be productive. And so we started that mission of redefining success. I met with Mayor Gentry. The RDC helped us to put this position in place. Kristen does way more than just, she's not a headhunter for local business. You can imagine the time she has to meet with insurance companies and talk about, okay, we need to get interns out there. So what do we do so you can help the employer, the worker, the owner, allow these kids to come on board? She's done the externship with teachers, and so that just puts that many more disciples and into the school building to help talk to kids. So the redefining of success went right along with what our state was, which is we're a state that works. Well, we're only a state that works when communities work, and I can tell you with the support that you've provided the school system and the work that Mrs. Scott's done, and more importantly, the work that the kids have done, we're a community that works. So it's not a hiring process. We're preparing young men and women to be successful in a whole lot more than just getting a college application submitted and being accepted to school, going away for a semester or 2 or 3 and coming back in debt. And I will tell you the preparation we're doing that these young men talked about are all high demand, high wage jobs. You know, we're not putting young men and women into a job that pays a non-living wage. And so the collateral benefit is we get these young men and women that are earning high-wage positions. They come back, they become part of the community, they buy houses, they shop in our stores, they eat in our restaurants, they pay taxes, and they have little boys and girls that come back to the school system. And that's kind of where we're at. But I would encourage you to go to Gene Hosh, and the reason I ask about you know, that precision-tooled piece of equipment that we looked at, I got excited when I went down to Vincennes and actually watched a young man take a block of aluminum and turn it into a gear shift knob. And the block of aluminum was like 42 cents, and the gear shift knob retailed for $85. And he did that through high-level math application, through all of those skills that we see. You talk about a human hair, and you go there and you see how these kids are held to that level of accountability. That led to the pride. I constantly got tired of hearing, well, Dr. Taylor, you can't give us kids that can show up on time or pass a drug test or know how to. Yes, we can, and we do. We give you young men and women that as Kristen is seeing, are very employable. And so in working with partners. So my passion goes simply beyond saying, hey, this is a position that the RDC funds, and here's the benefit we get. It goes to look at how our young men and women are able to grow and continue to be a viable part of our community and our county and our state, and they're basically the future. And so I really want to thank the RDC as superintendent. There's a handful of things that I'm so proud of as superintendent. This ranks right up there at the very top, because I've seen us redefine success, where just to have these folks come and talk to you, you know how hard it is to get a high school kid to stand up in front of a gray-headed adults, and some of you aren't gray-headed, but for that, and to articulate what their passion is and what they've learned. Likewise, I do want to thank Mayor Gentry. We've had a number of conversations, and he's been a guiding force in saying, hey, this is what we want to do. This is part of our vision. This is what we want to do to make our community work. So I have to say that well, certainly I respect the Commission's determination on this. I think the continued funding of this position not only helps the school system, it helps our community. And you see evidence of that every day. The CNA program, we just started that, and it's exploded. And we also, Kristen didn't share this, we work with other communities, Noblesville, Westfield, they're wanting to work with us on what we're calling the 32 corridor. And you go from our construction trades and our manufacturing over to Westfield and Noblesville, where they're working on other things such as nursing or food service type of thing. And so that 32 corridor now between here and Hamilton County is almost as exciting as the 65 corridor that goes between Chicago and Indianapolis, or the 465 loop. So when I talk to residential developers and builders, they talk about people that work in Hamilton County that want to live here, or people that live in Hamilton County that work here that want to live here. So Kristen goes way beyond just helping young men and women find activities to be involved with outside of school. I can guarantee you these gentlemen that talked to you tonight, they weren't looking to get out of school. They were looking to maximize school. Now I would say your kindergarten through 11th grade experience probably helped a little, although your last year of school was good. I got to tell you that those kindergarten teachers work hard, and so do those first grade teachers, but I appreciate your passion, and I appreciate what you've done to represent our school and yourself. So having said that, sorry, I'll step down from my soapbox, but I will say one more time how much I appreciate what this community has done, and the RDC as a reflection of that community to really stand us apart. There's only 2 other communities. It's Greater Clark, which is down south, and they take advantage of Louisville. And then I bet, probably not as much, but in the first 2 years, we had 2 to 3 people a week that would come and talk to Kristen. Danville, Noblesville, Greenwood, how do you get this going? How do we do this? What do we do? And none of them had the luxury of having a partnership with our community that allowed this to be funded and to be promoted and to be growing. And so I thank everyone involved with that. I also want to publicly recognize Mrs. Scott. My skill sets are limited, but I know to hire good people and get out of the way, and that's what I did on this one. So thank you very much. Appreciate that, Mr. President. Thank you.
Are we in
Well
a
said.
position to Dr. Taylor, are we in a position to offer this to other schools in our county here?
And Kristen can address that. You know, we've reached out. Now, we're a little possessive. I'm the superintendent of
I understand.
Lebanon Community Schools.
I understand. So am I. So am
But,
I.
you know, in those communities where some of the smaller communities in Clinton and some of those, you know, outlying agriculturally based communities that don't have this opportunity, we've encouraged their participation. And Dan actually has been working with Kristen in trying to open up the Gene Haas Center, which is another great facility here in Lebanon. And so once you work back the little protective jealousies that superintendents have about their school corporation, we've really encouraged participation. We've seen a lot with Western Boone. I think we're going to see more with the CNA. The CNA is becoming very popular in the sense that those are hard to fill positions. Whether it's a healthcare provider or whether it's a regional hospital, we've been in conversation with Witham, looking at how do we, as Kristen said, expand that. So those schools that want to come participate, we don't limit them. But we want to make sure we service Lebanon Community School students first. But the opportunities are so unlimited. Employers all the time. I think if we could put out there 30 CNC operators every year, 30 would be hired. And there'd be 3 or 4 other employees that didn't want them. And we're talking jobs that are down the road, $20, $25, $30, $35 an hour.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and the reputation we now have is a good one. We referenced the OSHA 10 card. You know, we're providing employers students that have some of the critical, like I said, the CDL license, the certifications, the OSHA 10 is a safety card. We're providing that for our students so that the employer doesn't have to. And the feedback I get is, if we hire your kids that are coming out of the PRIDE program, we know they're going to stay with us. So they're willing to invest money in those students on the training side to help them move forward with some of the more complex things that we can't. So, yes, to answer your question, Mr. Ramey and I have talked, and I know Kristen is in touch with Clinton Prairie, Clinton Central, Westfield, Noblesville. But our priority is Lebanon.
Sure.
But our goal is, this is something that's good for the state of Indiana. Sorry, I was going to get off the soapbox.
No, very good,
Okay,
very good.
my
Any
next-
other questions?
My next question is, when this was started, how much and how long was it supposed to be, and
Well,
so
and again,
forth?
that's where I would again extend my apologies. I thought we had talked about a preliminary funding that would be annually renewed up through 2021. That could be my passion to misinterpreted that, or that could be simply something I misread. But looking at the sustainability of the program, this is not something that you could start and stop. We're currently, the state of Indiana doesn't fund this. And now with career pathways in place, it becomes even more important for just every high school graduate to have some of these opportunities. We were one of the first to move required 8th grade college or high school credit of the college and career planning. And so that comes with a lot of coordination and how you work that out. So I originally I was under the impression, we simply, I'll let the commission make the determination. Mrs. Scott is obviously, she works out of my office, but you never find her there because she's always in schools or at workplaces. I would, as superintendent, if you were to ask me, I would like to see some commitment on an annual review, because we never know what our resources are with the RDC, but we seem to be building and growing those resources, that the funding that we're requesting, which I believe is an $80,000 a year grant, which covers basically her salary, and not much benefit. We supplement training that she has. We supplement some other things. I would ask that the commission, I would suggest the commission consider that certainly for the next 2 years with an opportunity to and as you can hear her passion and her kids, we'll bring you, how many kids you want to see on any given night? We'll bring you all those students. And there were several more employers that couldn't make it because of the flu. So Caleb, that's your fault apparently.
Yeah, very nice.
So Dick, to answer your question, I would like to see certainly at least a 2-year commitment. So that would be 18-19 and then 19-20 with the option to renew again for 2021.
Okay, we've been at,
I'd like to go further than that. I'm going to disagree with you. I'd like to go further than that, than just the 2 years, because this program's doing great things. So I'd like to see if we can go 4 years.
well, my thought is, we started this at 80,000. 4 or 5 years ago, right? And the cost of business is going up since then. You know, I just wonder if we shouldn't raise it to, if we got the funds, if we could raise it to 100 for the next 5 years. And have Christine come back and report to us every year, give us an update, how things are going every year with it.
Well, I'm sure she wouldn't
Of
say
all the
no.
things-
I'm sure she would not say no to that.
All the things we do and give money to, this is the most valuable thing we give money to, in my opinion.
I don't
This
argue
has
with
the most
that.
return on investment, really.
Yeah,
Correct.
I agree.
And
So,
I would rather-
being a commissioner, we could just take a motion and vote on it. I don't think there's any reason to hem all around about it.
Well, I would make a motion that we would look at increasing this to $100,000 and for 4 years.
So
And let's
through,
make sure we get that in a minute so we know what we have
Yes.
starting 2020. Because there is funding this year.
Is there
there funding this
for
year?
I would, 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21. If you go to 4, it'd be 21, 22. I do school years, I apologize, because that's how we structure salary.
When do we start?
When
year?
did we start?
no, when do we
when do we
start with the
start?
new
I
round?
don't
This
believe
motion.
we've collected our money for this year. That's
Okay.
what started the discussion, and I applaud Tanya
Okay,
and
so
Mia.
starting 2020, correct?
No, starting this year.
Starting this year?
Starting this school.
So if you wanted a 4-year, and just so you know, I will abstain, if that's only appropriate, although I'm obviously somewhat passionate about this. If to go with your recommendation, Dick, that 4 years, I would suggest we start 18, 19 and go through the 2020, 21, 22 school year.
Okay. 18-19 through 21-22 school year,
Yes,
$100,000. That's my motion.
Okay,
per school year.
Per school year.
okay, was that
Can you
legal
restate?
counsel, is that formal enough to be a solid motion, or does he need to restate it? Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay, we have a second. Any questions or comments? I'll take any question or comments from the public as well.
I just want to say, I know, well, Miss Scott, personally through a different program, but I'll tell you what, she has done amazing things, and I speak very highly of her character, and I'm so excited for the things she's done, and I'm so excited for the things you'll do. So thank you for everything you do.
Okay. Okay, that you're part of the public, so come on up. Oh, it's your birthday today. Wow.
Give her another present.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's take a vote.
That's my husband's birthday present, I would say.
So, okay, so I would say that having a
begged us
motion
to.
and a second, we're in a position to go ahead and vote. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Please let the
With
record
Dr.
reflect
Taylor-
that I abstained from the vote. Thank you.
You beat me to the punch, with Dr. Taylor abstaining from the vote.
So if I could step
Congratulations.
away, and as superintendent of schools, I want to thank the commission. I, again, as you know, feel very passionate about this, but I also think I'm passionate about doing good things for our kids. One of the struggles we've always had is how do we retain our student graduates here in our community? And with the continuation of high demand, high wage jobs, this will be one more opportunity for our students to find a home post high school here in our community and help be contributing members. And so I appreciate and thank the commission for that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Scott. Gentlemen, thank you for your fine representation of not only yourselves, but our school system. K-12. Thank you.
Very nicely presented tonight. I do appreciate it. So that is 3A of our agenda. We have 3B, which is a memorandum of understanding. Since that set portion of the meeting ran a little long, what impact would we have if we tabled that for this meeting?
Mr. Gentry, Mayor Gentry.
Okay, all right. Well, then I guess we will continue on. My apologies to the council. So let's move on to the next order of business, the Memorandum of Understanding for the Big Four Crossing Project. Welcome, Mr. Bontrager.
Thank you, and I don't know how I follow up the presentation from the schools and all the good things they're doing.
Big shoes, that was fantastic.
I'll do my best, and I'll try to be brief. So What I wanted to spend just a few minutes tonight is just to bring you up to speed on the Lebanon, or the Big Four Crossing project, and the support that the city has been working with the investor to try to get this project to the finish line. For those of you that aren't familiar with the project, and many of you probably aren't because it hasn't come before this board, the Big Four Crossing project is a mixed-use development that's essentially catty-corner from City Hall here, and we'll bring it up on the screen if we can. We're gonna get a little. So essentially, City Hall is to the lower right of this. So this is what we're affectionately calling the grassy knoll that the city owns here, right at the corner of Superior and Meridian, and then the properties in yellow are already owned by the investor. This is an old map, so it's got old ownership. The investor already owns those properties. The city owns the remaining property that's in red. And this, as I mentioned, there are 2 buildings that are being proposed. It's about a $6 million investment. And this would be like if I was standing on the roof of City Hall looking to the northwest. This is the southern of the 2 buildings. The other one goes up Meridian Street. It's a duplicate building. About a $6 million investment by the developer that's being proposed. The project's already received all of its necessary planning approvals. And the one final hurdle is getting the bank to the finish line. The lenders, the Lebanon market is certainly in downtown in terms of new construction is very new and kind of untested. So the question in the lender's mind was, is there a market for new commercial space in downtown Lebanon, and what rent rates do they think are acceptable in downtown Lebanon, and what does that do to the pro forma? So I know Joe provided to you in the packet a little bit of information on the pro forma, and just to kind of walk through it. So the column on the left is where the bank is comfortable with the rent rates are being proposed, which is about $12 per square foot, which represents what I understand is the high end of the downtown market for rent rates in Lebanon.
Oh, okay.
So if you kind of follow through this, I'd put it on the overhead, but you wouldn't be able to see it. The text is too small. You've got your potential revenue in the top, effective gross income, the operating expenses are subtracted out of that, and then you've got to get the debt service on the loan. On the left-hand side, at $12 a square foot is where the bank is comfortable with those rent rates. The investor is actually losing money, which means the bank doesn't loan money. So the bank's not going to loan somebody money if they're going to start losing money as soon as they loan them the money. So that's the challenge we have here is there's a funding gap that needs to be addressed in some way, shape, or form because our commercial market in downtown Lebanon isn't where some of our neighbors are, where they can get the rent rates that are support new construction. As we all know, construction is getting more and more expensive, so it's getting harder to make the numbers work when you've got kind of a fledgling market like we do for new construction in our downtown. The right-hand column represents where the bank thinks that the project should be in terms of pro forma in order to be successful, and that's at a minimum $21 per square foot, which our market does not support right now. We've got people paying $2-3 a square foot, maybe even less than that in our downtown. So the idea of the bank thinking that somebody's going to be able to rent space at $21 per square foot is kind of far-fetched for them. So what we're looking at here is there's a gap between that $12 and that $21 we're trying to address. So to do that, this is a little bit of a unique approach that has been used in other communities but has not been used in Lebanon yet. So I'm going to kind of walk you through the basics of the term sheet that was provided to you and how we're going to get this thing to the finish line. And some of this, the term sheet's been provided to the investor, and he's talked to his bank already. The bank is accepting of these terms. I think we're going to get there. But we just want to walk you through it because the RDC is going to participate in this as well as the Community Development Corporation for Lebanon. With me tonight is Mr. Adam Collins from Wallach, Summers, and Haas. They've been working on the city's behalf to help us put this together. They have a particular expertise as it comes to using the Community Development Corporation on projects like this, so he's here to answer any specific questions I might not be able to address for you. And what we're really looking to do is just get this in front of you guys, see if you have any questions or any concerns with how we're approaching this. We'll be coming back at a later date with a full project agreement for you guys to review and formally adopt. So this is really just to address any questions you have. So there's 2 components to the term sheet. The first is essentially capital improvements related to the property, trying to offset some of those site improvements that are necessary to get him ready to start going vertical with buildings. And what we're looking to do is there's a value associated with the property the city owns of about $152,500. That's the appraised value. We're looking to try to reinvest that money back into the project to correct and improve the infrastructure that serves the site. The sanitary sewer either needs to be relined or replaced in this area. It's the old 8-inch clay pipes we got in a lot of our downtown that are a challenge. We also have a manhole structure that's significantly older than should be and is using a technology that nobody uses anymore for the sanitary system. So that needs to be replaced. Sidewalks all need to be replaced. Alleys need to be repaved. There's a number of capital expenses need to happen. And then the other significant cost to him is going to be demoing the 3 houses that he's purchased to make room for the new project. That's about a $60,000 expense. There's one of 2 ways that we're going to try to provide that value back to the project. The first would be is the city's going to receive this $152,000. We'll work with the council. Obviously, this is something new for the council as well, that we'll still talk to them, see what's the best option. The council could budget that money to the Redevelopment Commission, that they receive the proceeds from the sale of the property. Then the Redevelopment Commission then grants that money to the Community Development Corporation, who then uses it to invest in those capital improvements necessary for the property. That's one avenue we could do that. The other one is probably a little bit more simple and straightforward. That would just be use a process to essentially gift the property to the developer, so then there's no money exchanging hands. And the way that would work is we already have an accepted bid. The Board of Works already accepted a bid from the developer, so we would reject that bid. And then the city would then, or the Board of Works would then transfer the title of the property to the Redevelopment Commission, who would then transfer the title to the Community Development Corporation for use for economic development purposes. The Community Development Corporation could then transfer title of the property to the developer for $1 under the conditions that they make the necessary infrastructure improvements and demo the property and develop. So that's the first part of the two components that we're using to try to get this project to the finish line. The second one addresses that gap in the pro forma, we're using what we're calling, or what's called a lease guarantee. So what this does then is we have done an estimate on the potential tax increment created by the project. It's just short of $50,000. What we'll do then is you'll see in years 1 through 10, which would be where we would use a maximum of that total tax increment of $49,450, and essentially pay them a portion of their necessary lease to make the bank happy. So we're going to basically, quote unquote, buy down their lease in order to get them to a marketable lease rate. So rather than being $21 a square foot to make the numbers work, we're going to buy it down in years 1 through 10 at $7.30 a square foot to get them closer to $13 to $14 a square foot, where the bank is comfortable with that lease rate being something that they might be able to get in the open market. And then years 11 through 15, we start scaling that back. So rather than taking it all the way in 1 year, and then they'd have to increase their lease rates to their tenants by 50%, we'll scale it back in years 11 through 15 to the point where they're at full lease rates in year 16. The way this will also work is at the end of each year, we will actually evaluate the actual leases that they received before we make our payment. So if they've got somebody come in and he pays 20 bucks a square foot, that's going to reduce the amount of our commitment to the project. So if we were wrong about the market and everybody comes in and pays 21 bucks a square foot, we don't have any commitment to the project because he's got his $21 a square foot for the total square footage of the commercial space. If he was able to lease part of it for $15 a square foot, then we come in and we fill that gap up to 21 bucks a square foot. So it's something where at the end of each year we evaluate what our actual commitment needs to be based on the actual lease rates that he gets. And again, so first, the capital part of it, we're using essentially funds or property value in order to offset that, so there is no new money going into the project already hasn't created. Same with the lease guarantee, we're using the money that the project creates in order to try to offset that gap in the pro forma a little bit. So while in year 1 and probably year 2 there won't be any increment coming in, you'll certainly make up the difference in the back end when they're paying full rate on the property tax. And we were very conservative with our appraised estimates for the property, so we're hoping that it actually pays more in tax than what we proposed here anyway, so we still have some money coming in. So that in general is the term sheet that we've been proposed. This has been provided to the investor, and he has talked to his bank about it, and the bank is comfortable with the terms and feels like they can lend the money. It'll be a 75-25 loan, so the investor's bringing $1.5 million of his own money into the deal, and then the bank's loaning the other $4.5 million to the project. And my understanding is this project, as soon as we can get all these project agreements together and get everything going, he will start this summer with the first building, and then the second building will start construction right after the first building completes. It's a fairly quick timeline. These are actually components that are manufactured in a warehouse and brought out and put together like Lego pieces, so it'll actually go vertical very quickly. So something exciting for downtown Lebanon, bring some additional activity to the Meridian Street corridor. both with some new retail space, new modern retail space, as well as some additional residential units to provide to residents and folks trying to find jobs in Lebanon. They'll have some new places to live. So with that, I don't know if Adam, you have anything you wanted to add, or if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or Adam can fill in for me where.
Okay, well,
I'm missing.
I do have a couple, so I'll get the party started. On the pro forma sheet, I see that the retail square footage is 3376, but on page 1 of the term sheet, you use 6752 as the basis. Why is there a delta there?
Because, excuse me, that's 3,300 per building, square footage per building. And there's 2 buildings.
Okay. So then the other question I have is what happens if there isn't a tenant? We know that you build a building sometimes and there's just, it just stays empty for a minute. So at that point, we would just be on the hook for the full 730?
We'd be on the hook for $7.30 a square foot, but nothing more than
not to exceed that 49,000, correct? Or 49 and change?
My name is Adam Collins. It's been said with Wallach, Summers, and Haas. Another piece, too, is that the city has the ability to suggest a tenant as well if you can find someone that's willing to pay that amount. So, again, that's another mechanism. If the developer's not able to find someone, but you have a local nonprofit organization or a small business that's willing to come in there at that rate, you can offer that space, and the developer has to accept them if they're willing to pay that rate.
Okay.
I mean, do you guys know of any interest already? I mean, just from talking, because if you said, I mean, I don't know if I heard you right. Did you say right now, currently in the downtown square, roughly $2 to $3 a square foot is what they're paying now?
It varies significantly, and Joe can probably fill in too. It probably varies from $1, $2, $3 a square foot up to maybe 10.
That's a major difference, even to the 12.
Right.
$12.
Right.
I mean, I feel like it's not far from downtown.
And it's been really hard to determine the actual market because you got some buildings where the owner is related to the tenant, and so they're giving them a deal.
Right.
And so that's where I think the bank is challenged the most, is really understanding exactly what the comps are for this lease space.
Absolutely. It's just a little worrisome.
And we haven't had any new space added to our downtown. I don't even know the last, probably since CVS was built. So finding an appropriate comp is pretty challenging, and I think that's where the bank was a little bit concerned with $21 a square foot, because we don't have anybody paying anywhere close to that much in our downtown right now.
For the next phase, or when we go into the more formal process, I'd love to see some comparables, same way that you would if you bought a house in other downtowns that are in a similar size. I mean, Franklin would be an example that comes to mind, and then maybe just a few others around so that we could understand, because that's a great point, is 21 like would be the highest in the state or not? I don't have a good basis for that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it'd be good to see that comparable.
Sorry, Commissioner, I wanted to make a statement too here. I'd like to point out too, the reason we're trying to work on this project and why we're trying a different approach on this is we've had feedback from the community that we want mixed use type buildings, right? We've heard feedback through our comp plan process, through just development that we've had, that people want lower level retail space and then apartments above. When it's all apartments, the numbers are very different, right? And that's an easier math to make. Since we haven't built any new mixed use buildings in, I don't know if we have any, since probably the 1900s, early 1900s is the last time we had mixed use space. So it's a new market for us. It's an emerging market for us. So this is kind of a new approach for it, but it's also a new project and it's something that we're working on. And there are more projects like it that we hope that this is a model that we can use down the road in order to succeed and try to bring that mixed use density back downtown. This is very similar to what we're talking about with the Shift project as well. We want to provide that mixed use density that gives us apartments for people to live in, but then also retail space as well. So I appreciate the Commission's willingness to hear this as well.
Sure. Thank you.
So regarding the Shift project, how is this going to overlap? Are we going to have new buildings on both sides of this one by next spring potentially, if this goes through?
Yeah, we're working through the Shift project right now. Actually, they're actually looking at where to start on both the east and west sides of Lebanon Street. One important thing on the west side of the street is it's in the federal opportunity zone, which offers some additional tax benefits to investors. So they may actually start on the west side of Lebanon Street, where the former Estes parking lot is, where we're using as construction zone right now, because there's some tax benefits that are there now that they want to take advantage of. But they're hopeful that they will start construction later this fall on their first building, and that would be a significant building as well, probably about a $10 million investment.
With other communities that have done this, have they found that when placing buildings like this close to their downtown that might be only half full or 3/4 full, do you find that the rest of the spaces fill up quickly because now it's more of a high commerce place, I guess?
Yeah, you're bringing additional, both commercial and residential activity. I think what's going to be especially encouraging, I think, to some of our other businesses already downtown is we're bringing more people to live in a higher density space. So you're adding 28 residential units we don't have now that are going to be market rate with people that have good jobs that like to go out to eat at restaurants and go down to People's a couple times a week or something like that. So we're trying to create the density that used to exist in this area. There used to be 3-story buildings all the way through here that aren't there now in a lot of the cases, especially on Lebanon Street. So we're trying to bring that density back and bring that kind of suburban/urban style living to our downtown that used to be there. You look at the flats and they usually don't have any apartments available because they got a waiting list. So we know there's a demand there for a nice apartment, and that's what these will be.
Ben, what other communities have done this type of financing, and then also has this developer been involved in any that type of financing somewhere else?
This is actually, excuse me. This developer is he's just getting into the real estate market, so he's retiring from his day job and wants to relocate to this area from Chicago where it doesn't snow quite as much, I guess. And looking to invest in this area because he wants his kids to grow up. I guess they're grown now, but he wants them to have opportunities to work in the real estate in this area. So he's essentially creating a future for his kids by developing real estate in this area. When he first approached us, probably about 1.5 years ago now, he said, what's some issue, challenge, or opportunity that Lebanon sees that I can get involved with? So this was actually just a result. He didn't come to us with an idea. He came and sat down, and over the course of several months, we tried to address what sort of issues, challenges, or opportunities we had to come up with a project that made some sense for him. So this was a kind of a mutual project a group of us came up with.
What's our safeguard in this plan? What do we have in here to protect the city?
Right.
I don't. I see these projects all the time, every place I go to, and I like these projects. I'd like to see us have some of these projects, but I've also seen a lot of them where there's still a lot of empty spaces underneath. Apartments are full and still some empty spaces. And I know that's still going to be difficult to fill that empty space here because we have a few empty spaces downtown that need to be filled up some way as well. So I just want to know what's our safeguard in this, so we don't get into something and then we're stuck and can't get out.
Right. But from the perspective of the guarantee doesn't kick in until he finishes construction of the buildings. So that's the first guarantee, that the buildings will be there. They'll be paying taxes no matter what. In terms of filling the space, we're going to work with them to get them full. And we've had a number of inquiries about space like this. I think the difference in this space and what we see in our existing downtown, which there aren't that many spaces available downtown. There's only a handful. There's some limitations to what you can do in some of those spaces too. They're either too small or too narrow or all kinds of good stuff. So this is a modern retail commercial space. We've had a number of folks ask about where can I get 1,500 square feet for a small office, or I want to do a small tasting room. I don't need a big space, but I want something modern with modern amenities. So we've had a number of inquiries in the last 2 years that I've been here for space like this.
Is there enough parking planned in this development for the businesses as well as the residents to be in one spot?
Yep, they met all our parking requirements. They've got all that approved already.
Did I hear you say that once this is established, it'll be its own TIF district and support the lease buyout, the difference once that starts happening? So like when they're only getting $14, we need to cover the other $7.
Right, yeah, it'll be part of the overall, it's part of the overall TIF already.
It is part of the overall
Yeah,
TIF
it's
already?
already within our consolidated TIF.
Change we made several years ago.
Okay.
We don't necessarily have to carve it out to its own district, and it doesn't necessarily
I didn't realize it was
operate
already
benefits,
in a
but
TIF.
it is
Okay.
self-supporting. That was their goal from the start, is that this be self-supporting. We're not bringing money from elsewhere to subsidize this.
Okay.
Okay, commissioners, any other questions, thoughts? This will be a conversation, so my suggestion would be to give it some thought and share your thoughts with the commission as well as Ben, and keep the conversation alive, because I know he's very willing to share info, so.
Yep, any questions at all, let me know, be happy to answer.
Okay.
If you're concerned about the direction, let me know that too, because we still have time to be able to change direction if need be.
Okay.
So at this point, there's not an action item, correct? It's just purely information Q&A, so.
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, so that was all of our new business. Next on the agenda is the claims. Well, we've all seen a copy of the claims. Are there any questions or comments about the claims?
I motion we pay the claims.
I second that motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So on that note, are there any comments, questions, statements that the commission would like to make before we entertain a motion to adjourn? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Very good. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Is there anything else you